Welcome to the wee small hours of Tuesday the 12th of March. It's 3 minutes past midnight. Hello and thank you for listening to Weeknights on 5 Live. Now, as we're edging into Tuesday, let's catch up with a man whose knowledge of music can take us in all directions, from 10th Avenue North to the beautiful South, and from East 17 to Kanye West. He can always point us in the right direction. He's my North Star. He's this man.
Weeknights with Gordon Smart.
He's Dr. Beat. It's the show's resident musicologist, Dr. Beat, Professor Joe Bennett from the Berklee College of Music in Boston. Good evening to you, Joe.
Hey there, Gordon. Good to be here again.
Oh, it's great to have you on, Joe. You know, there's loads of business to take care of this evening, but actually I thought of you at the Oscars last night because of Billie Eilish and Phineas. I know it's somebody that you rate really, really highly, but they won an Oscar last night. And again, I remember you saying they're one of the most original pairings of musicians for a long, long time, so it was a big win.
Oh, completely. It's just great to see that recognition. And it was such a fantastic song. What was I made for? I mean, she brought all of the Eilishness to it and yet also managed to sort of come up with something that really suited the movie as well. So just fantastic songwriting, great production. I think I mentioned to you, Gordon, that I haven't had many pull over the car and what the heck is this? But the first time I heard Billie Eilish, that was one of those moments.
I think, has Phineas not won another Oscar for a James Bond track, or did I completely imagine that? I think there might be another bit of silverware.
You might be right. Certainly, it's difficult to keep count of all the awards they have won in between them.
They've done it very well indeed. Right, so as we say, Joe Bennett is here this evening. He joins us every week about this time to help us decode the secrets of great songs, to try and find out what it is that makes us like the music we do. Last week we were looking at narrative songs. In fact, we were looking at them for the last 2 weeks because there were so many to get into. But this week we're going to be looking at something that I was going to say was a bit more short term, but I don't know if they are, because they do tend to last forever. It's all about the one hit wonder. So, Joe, you kind of got to explain your definition. We heard one of the listeners earlier on. It's quite a broad one, isn't it? So what is a one-hit wonder to you?
Well, you know, it's a curious thing, the one-hit wonder. When something enters the culture and we just know that song and it just becomes part of our lives, like for the rest of our lives, it's not always a number one, interestingly. When I was doing the research for all the chart positions for the playlist that we have tonight, I was thinking, actually, I thought in my memory that was number one, but it was actually like number 6 or something. So I thought, okay, being an academic, I'm evidence-based, everything has to be cited and supported, and I have to have a good argument. So I used 2 metrics. Method 1 was there had to be at least 10 chart positions between the song we chose and the next most successful one. So one was more of a hit than the other by 10. Or, using a more contemporary method, 10 times the number of streams when you go to that artist on a streaming service, and there has to be 10 times as many streams for that song compared to the next one down. And that second metric was actually the most successful because, of course, some of these songs are so well loved that people just stream them again and again, even though they were hits 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah, because I know that I keep mentioning bands to you, and I've got to be careful not to turn all roads back to Scotland at every available opportunity, but you've had to be quite strict, haven't you? Because there are a few that I could have suggested that might not have made the grade, but then I had the old tartan glasses on.
Well, I have we got through a show without you mentioning the Proclaimers yet, Gordon? I don't think we have. Now, this is a bit contentious, but I'm going to share this with you. When we applied our mathematical algorithm that I just described, actually, I'm sorry to say, the Proclaimers came up. That is to say, I'm going to be 500 miles. Last time I looked here, and I checked the stats last night, has 729 million streams. It's a very respectable number. It's a classic song, well loved. And they can't all be coming out of Scotland, those streaming demands. But their next biggest song is on the streaming services is I'm On My Way with 62 million. So at least by that metric, they do qualify. But I decided not to choose the Proclaimers for a show about one-hit wonders because I feared you may never speak to me again if I did that, Gordon.
Yeah, suddenly Joe's not available to work on a Monday evening after that massive... I can't believe I keep mentioning mention. I don't know what it is. It's like when I'm surrounded by musicologists, I just have to mention that particular band. So, Joe, I'm really looking forward to this one tonight, and your quiz has got off to a great start. We've already had a few incorrect answers coming in, so is this going to be a friendly one? Last week was quite difficult. How's it looking this week?
Well, these songs, you will know the sound of them. And with these backwards audio things that I play, it's as much about spotting the production and the register of the vocal as it is trying to kind of decode the lyric or figure out what the melody is. So it's about the feel and the vibe and the production. And I think all of these songs, these 5 songs we've chosen for the quiz, have a very particular sort of production style that to me makes them super easily recognizable. But just for anyone who doesn't agree with that point of view, I'm going to give you the location of the band, so where in the world they hail from, the UK chart position, and the year. So few clues as well as the audio.
Excellent stuff. Right. Before we get started, I wonder if I should give you this. We've already had one guess. Bran Van 3000 for song 1 is incorrect, is what I'm going to tell you for that one. So try again. Right, Joe, over to you. Do you want to give us the setup again and the 5 clues?
Okay, so I'm going to play you 5 to 10 seconds of backwards audio. I'm going to play the most catchy, the most famous bit of each song. And these are all very well-known songs that were hits in the UK. The earliest one is from 1983 and the most recent one from 2006. So here we go. Question 1. This California band had a number 5 hit in 1988. Name the song. Question 2. This New York-based band had this hit in 2000. The band's still going. It was number 2 in the UK, and here it is from 2000. Question 3. This is a bit more acoustic. This is from 2006, another American artist. They're from Illinois. And this is a true story song, and it is written about a famous steeplechase runner. Fun fact. Okay, number 3. Here it is. Question 4. This is a Canadian band. They hail from Montreal. And in 1983, they had this very synth-heavy hit, which got to number 6 in the UK charts. This was their only major UK hit. Here it is. And just in case people think that me living in America has made me have a pro-American bias, for number 5, this band is from Leicester, and they had this massive hit in 1997. Here it is. Name the song.
Absolutely brilliant, Professor Joe. I love this game. Really, really enjoy it. I hope you had your pen and paper ready. We will give you a little bit of a reminder in about half an hour's time, just in case you missed any of those. A couple of guesses coming in already wrong, particularly from the people I know who are messaging me privately. No, play the game properly. Do it officially. 85058 if you would like to get involved in the quiz tonight. Great stuff from Professor Joe. Right, let's get into your first choice tonight, Joe. We're talking about one-hit wonders, and this is going to be Two Princes to start off with by the Spin Doctors, which is probably, I would think, well, I'm going to agree with you, the most familiar song in the UK at least. So why have you gone for this one, Joe?
Well, in a word, drums. So when I had my playlist together for this show, I thought, okay, I know what songs I'm gonna bring to Gordon, and I'm really sure that my usual rules of make them nice and diverse across decades, across styles of those criteria have been met. And I was just listening idly to a playlist of other one-hit wonders, and this song came up, and I thought, I'd forgotten how awesome the drumming is on this recording. The way the toms are mic'd and the way that the drummer Aaron Commerce plays those fills. I mean, the whole thing starts with a fill. So really, this is just about enjoying awesome drumming. And I think it's also a good example of someone that we may think of as a one-hit wonder, but have actually managed to take those early hits and forge them into a consistent career. So you can go and see Spin Doctors in like Manchester in November. They're touring around the world, and they've got a US tour planned. So they've been going more than 30 years. They're still going strong. Great band, still together. And of course, they play this at every show.
Excellent. Let's have a little play and remind ourselves of Two Princes by the Spin Doctors.
Just go ahead now. One last diamonds in his pockets, and that's some breath now. This one said he wants to buy you rockets, ain't in his head now.
Absolutely brilliant, isn't it? Two Princes, Spin Doctors. What's the technical term for that delivery of a vocal there, Joe? The dibba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Is it scat, man?
Well, yeah, it is kind of scat singing, which is like not what you expect out of the sort of early days of grunge. But rabadada, yeah, it's absolutely. We've got a little bit more scat coming in tonight. Spoiler, but proper band. Made it just by treading the boards, doing tons of gigs, building a fan base. Old school, great rock and roll, great players.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Again, we've not done a Monday night special on drumming yet, but listening to that and seeing your reaction when that song kicked off, it is something special, isn't it? I mean, that must be a joy for a drummer to play that.
Yeah, it's because there's like a fill between every phrase, and as I say, the whole song comes in with a fill, and there's just so much for a drummer to do. So when I told my research helper Rafi that I was going to put Two Princes, and he was like, yes, he was so pleased. And he's like a 22-year-old American drummer, and he's still like really admiring this track from way before he was born.
It gives me a chance to mention my favourite word in the English language. Which I used to work with a producer who was a great drummer, and I think I'm going to get this right by saying, is it a paradiddle? Is that correct, Joe? The technical term?
Yes, paradiddle. It's the combination of left and right sticking. The drummers will know. Practicing your paradiddles is one of the sort of basic, they call them the rudiments, and you do it on a snare drum. Anyone who's ever lived with a drummer will know that if they're a disciplined practicer, they will do their rudiments. It actually drives everyone in the house crazy.
His paradiddling used to drive me mad on the show because he'd always be drumming away with his fingers left and right hand side. It was brilliant. And Joe, actually, I was just thinking about applying your science to this particular song, because you've got very strict rules tonight. You are an academic. You follow the rules. You're very good about that. So 4 top 40 hits in the UK, but this was the only one that made the top 20. Is that right?
Right, so this one made number 3 in 1993, and the famous album from which it came, Pocket Full of Kryptonite, was actually released 2 years earlier in 91. And the album itself did hugely well on the strength of this, and some of the other singles like Little Miss Can't Be Wrong, and of course the title track. So it's fantastic record, and it's I think it's really stood the test of time.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't sound too dated when you play it now, I think.
Yeah, really impressive. What a one-hit wonder, and what a great way to start. Two Princes by Spin Doctors, 1993. Great choice by Professor Joe there. Right, your next choice is a song that seemed to be everywhere back in 2011, so 13 years ago. It's Somebody That I Used to Know by Gotye, featuring Kimbra. This is a genuine one-hit wonder in the UK. Gotye hasn't bothered the charts, I don't think, since, but this reminds me, I used to work on another radio station with a big green X, and this was on rotation relentlessly. So what is it about this one you like, Joe?
Well, I think it's just one of those records that when it comes out, it's really fresh. It's not like anything that you've heard previously. It starts with this famous 2-chord vamp, this sort of D and C vamp, and the guitar riff itself has a sort of a sonic characteristics that at the time I thought, oh, that's kind of a retro for a contemporary record. And of course, finding out about it, it's actually a sample. So the song begins with a sample from Louise Boniface's 1967 song called Seville. And basically what Gotye does is just take the first 2 chords of the sample and loop it. So we get that dong, tick, tick, dong, tick, tick, dong, tick, tick, dong. And then he rather mischievously plays a sort of a version of Baa Baa Black Sheep as the main hook, dong, 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 da, 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 into the intro. But I don't know. I feel like Gotye seemed to have been a somewhat reluctant pop star, a self-producing singer-songwriter. And in a future week, we're going to look at duets. So this is actually, but tonight, this is our only example of a duet song. It features Kimbra. And the story is of, 2 people looking back at a relationship and sort of lamenting the way that the other one broke it off. And you think it's just his side of the story until way later in the song, I think something like the 2-minute point when Kimbra comes in and you hear her side of the story, that this guy wasn't such a great prospect in relationship terms at all. So you get both sides of the story. It's got a fantastic sonic signature, and it was back at that time. I think it was something really fresh.
Brilliant stuff, right? I think my pronunciation was wrong. I've been saying Gotye, but you say Gotye.
Well, I've never heard him pronounce his own name, so we can debate it.
Let's debate it another time. This is Gotye, and somebody that I used to know.
You felt so happy you could die. I told myself that you were right for me, but felt so lonely in your company. But that was love and it's an ache I still remember.
That we'll keep it playing in the background. Gotye featuring Kimbra, somebody that I used to know. And again, Joe, applying your formula this evening, your very strict academic principles to this. Nothing else charted, is that right?
Yeah, it was the only song, and nothing else charted in the UK. And I think he's been quite comfortable with that. Not every one-hit wonder wants to continue as a pop star. He actually most recently, very interestingly to my music nerd bones, he's gone to champion the ondioline. So he actually started up the website ondioline.com, which is an early analog synthesizer made by a Frenchman called Georges Genie in 1939. It's one of the earliest synthesizers, and Gotye is really a huge fan of this instrument, and he just believes more people should play it. And, he can afford to have some time on his hand because this song is still comfortably generating royalties.
Yeah. 13 million copies sold worldwide. I'd be quite comfortable with that as well if that was my only ever delivery into the world of music. Brilliant stuff. Love that, Joe. Right, your next song has had a life beyond its initial release. We're going back to the turn of the century and Afroman's Because I Got High. I'm so pleased you chose this, Joe, because it is one of those songs that makes you smile. It's one of those, if you're not sure if it's a novelty or not, I think it's maybe beyond that. But what is it that appealed to you, Joe?
Well, it made me laugh at the time, and I kind of hadn't heard it for 20 years, and I came back to it, and I thought, should we talk about Afroman? And it made me laugh all over again in 2024. So this is Because I Got High. It's It was a little bit controversial at the time in 2000 because people were saying, it's glorifying drugs. But actually, if you listen to the lyric, it really isn't. This is a character telling us that basically he's a bit of a loser and all the things he wanted to achieve in his life, he has failed to do with the hook because I got high. And so it's a great bit of storytelling in its own right. But actually going deeper into Afroman's deeper cuts, he actually has a song entitled One Hit Wonder. From 2014, and of course he plays on the idea of hit. I think the opening lyric is something like "as I hit my bong." So most of his songs are sort of marijuana themed. And interesting, I live in Massachusetts, and it was where Boston is, in the east coast of the USA, and it's legal here. Weed is legal here. Next to you've got like, just the street over from where I live, there's a small supermarket, there's a 7-Eleven, there's a liquor store, and there's a weed shop. So you just buy it normally, and everyone's kind of really relaxed about it. But this song, One Hit Wonder, he sort of laments that his serious hip-hop fans are kind of not very happy that he has this huge hit, because they like all of his other stuff. But to the rest of us who don't know his catalog quite so deeply, Because I Got High is still a great record 24 years later.
Well, I make absolutely no apology for this being an earworm when you wake up tomorrow morning. This is Afroman, Because I Got High.
Roll another. Yeah. Oh, good. La da 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 da. La da da. La da da da. La da da da. La da da da. Yeah. I was gonna clean my room until I got high. I was gonna get up and find the broom, but then I got high. My room is still messed up, and I know why. Why, man? Yeah, cause I got high. Because I got high. Because I got high.
There we go, a little bit of Afroman for you, because that's going to be stuck in my head, actually, Joe. I'm going to have to listen to that on the way home again tonight. He did have a song in 2014 called One Hit Wonder, didn't he? Was that a nod to this one?
Yeah, so it was, and it's actually a weird song. We won't play it tonight, but it is actually set to the tune of Del Shannon's Runaway. So it's like a hip-hop sort of remix of Runaway, with his rapping all about his hip-hop fans and sort of lamenting that he has this great hit and they think he's sold out, but he really hasn't. He's kept it marijuana-themed lyrics for pretty much all of his career. So yeah, it's a great tune, One Hit Wonder.
There we go, that definitely sits in the category. It qualifies properly. Now, the next song we're going to play is from 3 years ago, gained a lot of press on its release. I'll tell you what I'm going to do this time round, Joe. We've had a request to say, can you play the song first before your analysis, just so we can get a flavour first. So let's break a tradition here and have a little listen to Nathan Evans, and this is Wellerman.
There once was a ship that put to sea. The name of the ship was a Billy of Tea. The winds blew up her bow, up down, oh below my bully boys blow. Soon may the Wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. She'd not been 2 weeks from shore when down on her a right whale bore. The captain called all hands and swore he'd take that whale in tow. Soon may the Wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go.
There we go, Nathan Evans, and that's Wellerman. And of course, Nathan Evans, the most successful Scottish postie in history. What a one-hit wonder. I mean, he's done well, isn't he, Nathan Evans, off the back of this song, Joe?
He really has, and he did it all himself, no sort of record company or hyping or anything like that. He was just a TikToker who made this recording, and the song's super old. The song is originally a 19th century New Zealand folk song, but Nathan, when he put this song out, it's him harmonizing with himself, so it has this wonderful flavor of sort of old sea shanty melody and lyric theme, and yet sort of heavily auto-tuned vocals, which makes it sort of modern sounding for the TikTok generation. And it sprouted a movement, a really weird movement. While everyone was in lockdown listening to their TikToks, or at least Gen Z were listening to their TikToks, so I suspect it's that line, bring us sugar and tea and rum. So the idea that the sailors were waiting for these deliveries of supplies, just as all the housebound young people were sort of waiting for COVID to be over. So people just really related to it, and it sparked this weird craze for sea shanties on TikTok. I can't explain it, so you just never know how popular culture is going to work and what people are going to like.
Well, Joe, one of my other questions for you, you know, if there's such an old song, right, going back to the 19th century, could there ever be any form of publishing claim or any kind of court case to say, hold on a minute, we need a share of profits for this?
Well, when a song is officially out of copyright, it enters the public domain, and that's usually 70 years after the death of the last surviving author. That's the song. But there's two copyrights in music. There's the song and the sound recording. So Nathan has made his own brand new sound recording, and he owns that, and he'll get a micro percentage of a penny every time somebody streams that. But he's not the songwriter because it's a traditional song that pre-existed. So he can have a hit, but the economics of the music industry means that if you didn't write the hit, you get slightly less money, just proportionally. In fact, funnily enough, I was just thinking about that because we had somebody texted in earlier to mention the Soup Dragons' "I'm Free," which was another arguable one-hit wonder. And that, of course, is a cover version. We did a show about cover versions a while ago. The original "I'm Free" is actually by the Rolling Stones from 1965. It's sort of deep cut. I think it's from the Out of Our Heads album. So, you know, sometimes when you, as an artist, you choose to release a cover version, you're sort of automatically saying, I'm happy to get a little bit less money for this in my career, but because people love the song, maybe more people will come to it, so it sort of balances out.
I remember Moby kind of did a similar sort of thing, didn't he, when he dug out some old sort of deep south singing from cotton fields and stuff like that and used them and sampled them. But they were the basis of some great songs. But did it ever occur to your students at all, Joe, when that happened with Nathan Evans, that they could dig back into old folk songs and reboot them and rejig them and try and make a few quid? Because that's what I would do if I was one of your students.
I teach a class every Friday called Business of Professional Music, and we talk about every possible strategy that the students might think about for getting their music out there. And of course, TikTok is one of them. It has the advantage that it's where all the listeners are, but it also has the disadvantage that it's where everybody else is as well. So actually getting yourself heard above the noise, I think it's really no different from, say, you know, all the metal bands that there were in the 80s or in the indie shoegazers that there were in the 90s. It's difficult to break above the noise in music. And to do that, you need something original that people haven't heard before. And I think this is a terrific example of that.
Exactly that. Right, your next choice, Joe, takes us back 65 years. So let's break the tradition again and let's have a little bit of Sleepwalk by Santo and Johnny. Beautiful on the radio at this time of night as well. Santo and Johnny and Sleepwalk. Am I right in saying that's about a lap steel guitar on that, Joe?
Yeah, good spot there. So this is the lap steel, the pedal steel guitar. So if you imagine it kind of looks like a tabletop. So a lap steel usually have 4 metal legs, and the guitar is flat. So the player sits down. Some lap steels you just have a metal bar like a bottleneck that you slide over the strings, and some actually have a complex. The more advanced ones have a complex system of sort of pulleys and levers that you work with your knees. So if you ever meet a real virtuoso lap steel player, they're using like all 4 limbs and their knees to create these incredible chords. But the thing about Sleepwalk is it's just this incredible, eerie, evocative melody. And it's partly the sound of that instrument, that lap steel. But it's also, in fact, if we just fade the track down a minute, I'll give you the chords. So it's a 4-chord loop, which wasn't all that uncommon in the 50s, and actually isn't all that common today. Lots of the Hot 100 right now is 4-chord loops. But in the 50s, there was a loop that was really common, which a lot of people will recognize, which was 1-6-4-5. Goes like this. Grabs guitar. So those 4 chords, C, A minor, F, G, in whatever key. There's a ton of doo-wop songs. You know, I bet a lot of people when they hear those chords start thinking of the musical Grease.
I was thinking Back to the Future, actually.
Back to the Future. Well, there you go, 1955. So, so it kind of puts you back there. So this is a 50s song, and it was in a 50s chord loop, but they just make this tiny change to it. They change the 3rd chord to an F minor, so you get this. It's in 12/8. Ding, 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 ding. Here comes the minor. And then you get, I can't really do it here on regular acoustic guitar, but that beautiful melody, do 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 do, and played up the octave there with the steel slide. It's just exquisite and so evocative. And you know, they continue to play it for 60 years. They're both still around, elderly gentlemen now, and still known for that song.
Joe, I get the feeling I recognise that. Is it a song that's been covered a lot?
Yeah, it would be interesting to try and figure out what cover version it's triggering in your memory. Yeah. So I made a note of some of the more famous cover versions. So Brian Setzer, Larry Colton, more modern people like Deftones and Modest Mouse and Joe Satriani have covered it. But also some artists of that era. I think people knew it was a great tune even back in the day. Les Paul, the Supremes, James Burton. So there's some great cover versions of it, and I think it's partly because it's a great melody, and partly because that production just evokes the 50s so beautifully.
That was absolutely brilliant. I loved every second of that. Thank you for that, Joe. It was a good introduction, that one, this evening. You just heard Sleepwalk there. Right, I think should we have a little reminder of all the quiz questions here, Joe? Because I can tell you a lot of people are having a pop tonight, and I can see there might be a few 5 out of 5s already, which is impressive, really impressive. So, yeah, shall we go through them one more time, Joe, then? So tonight's quiz questions, one-hit wonders. Joe, set the scene and give us the clues again.
Okay, so you're going to hear a 5 to 10 second excerpt of the catchiest bits from some very, very famous songs. I am going to give you the year of release, its UK chart position, and where the band came from, their approximate location. 5 questions, as always, and you just got to name the song. So here we go. Question 1. This California band got to number 5 in the UK charts in 1998. Question number 2. This New York band got to number 2 in the UK charts. This was their biggest hit in the year 2000. I think that's a pretty easy one, personally. I think that riff transcends the backwardsness. Question 3. This song from 2006 is by an Illinois band, and it is about a steeplechase runner. For number 4, this is a band from Montreal, so Canadian, and this synthy song is from 1983. It got to number 6 in the UK charts. And for number 5, this British band hail from Leicester. They had this number 1 single in 1997. Name the song.
Absolutely brilliant, Joe. I tell you what, loads of guesses coming in, and keep them coming. 85058. A couple of people looking very strong in there, but I won't give the game away just yet. Joe has been a bit kinder this week, I think, to some of the competitors. But keep them coming in. We would love to see them all. 85058. And we will go through the runners and riders again before the end of the hour. Now, back to the one-hit wonders. The next song you've chosen is Rude. That's the title, not a description. It's performed by Magic. The name of the band, rather than Opinion. Let's have a little listen. This is Rude and Magic.
Saturday morning, jumped out of bed and put on my best suit. Got in my car and raced like a jet all the way to you. Knocked on your door with heart in my head to ask you a question, 'cause I know that you're an old-fashioned man. Yeah. Can I have your daughter for the rest of my life? Say yes, 'cause I need to know. You say I'll never get your blessing till the day I die. Tough luck, my friend, but the answer is no. Why you gotta be so rude? Don't you know I'm human too? Why you gotta be
Here we go.
so rude?
Rude and Magic. There's a lot going on in this song, Joe. I mean, again, I haven't heard that for such a long time, but what was the inspiration for this one tonight?
Well, what I love about this song is it's just, you can kind of see why it was a one-hit wonder, why they seem to come from nowhere, because the song is just so good in terms of songwriting craft. I think of it as just being like overhooked. Every single section has a fantastic hook in it, and so the form is sort of built to give you extra hooks. So we get straight into the story. Saturday morning, jumped out of bed, put on my best suit, got in my car and raced like a jet all the way to you. And it's a story of a marriage proposal, so it sets the scene. It doesn't mess about. It gets really efficiently into the story. And then you have a pre-chorus, that section where he speaks to the father. Can I have your daughter for the rest of my life? Say yes, because I need to know. So he's doing everything properly. And I would say he's the kind of son-in-law that many parents might want. You know, he's put his suit on, he's making the effort, he's being polite, and the payoff at the end of the pre is tough luck, my friend, but the answer is no. Then we have the chorus. Why do you got to be so rude? You just heard there. And then he says, well, I'm going to marry her anyway. And then we have a post-chorus, which is marry that girl, no matter what you say. So you've kind of got 4 sections that hook the listener in, and then it goes round again and does the same thing. So just great songwriting, and a great simple one-word title that sings great, and a very pleasing sort of light reggae backing groove. What's not to like?
Do you know, Joe, I think I know my music fairly well, but I can't think of another song, a single song by that band.
Well, me neither, I have to say. We say here in America, me either. I don't think they had any other UK chart hits. Certainly my research didn't uncover anything. I was like really scraping to find it. I think the very definition of a one-hit wonder, straight to number 1 in 2014, and then nothing since.
I thought there would have been more of a market for Canadian reggae fusion after all. Right, the next song might trigger some crazy dance moves. It just makes me think think of the politician over here, Ed Balls. It led to some bizarre imitation videos, and it introduced the world to an affluent area of South Korea's capital city. Yes, it's Psy and Gangnam Style. In case you need a reminder, here it is.
오빤 강남스타일 강남스타일 낮에는 따사로운 인간적인 여자 커피 한 잔에 여유를 아는 품격 있는 여자 밤이 오면 심장이 뜨거워지는 여자 그런 반전 있는 여자
Right. I think that might give us a flavour of it, Psy and Gangnam Style. Now, Joe, again, great selection. I had erased that from my memory, but it's back.
Yes. So, we should bring it back. It's been a long time. It's 12 years old. Can you believe? 2012, all that time ago. So it's notable for being the first YouTube song to break the 1 billion views barrier, and for saying that most people did not speak Korean. You know, it's remarkable that a song that contains almost no English lyric was such a hit in English-speaking countries. And yeah, so it thematically, it is a satire of the Gangnam Style of the title. It's essentially about affluence and people who are a little bit above their station. So it's social commentary, but of course, to us, if we don't speak the language, we don't get any of that. We just see a guy riding an invisible horse and sort of dance along to this great 4-on-the-floor beat.
Now, Joe, am I right in thinking that he studied, he's an alumni of Berkeley College, where you are an honoured and superior and great man? Is this true?
Well, I don't know about the last bit, but certainly it is true that Psy went to Berkeley. Yeah, he was, I think he enrolled in 1999, so 25 years ago. And there's a few people out there that we claim, you know, Psy, John Mayer, Quincy Jones back in the day. You know, there's a long and illustrious list of alumni that went to Berkeley, because for many years there was nowhere else you could study popular music, you know, and now we obviously would say that we're the best at teaching it. But, you know, a lot of those students, and Psy was one of them actually, they come for a couple of years, they do most of their degree. I don't think he actually graduated because he just went off to go and be Psy. But we claim him anyway, you know.
I was going to say, he must have been attending Professor Joe's Friday lectures. That's the one where you learn to make a fortune. He was one of them. Right. Joe, I love that. Fantastic. Great suggestion, and good to give a former student, even if it wasn't one of yours, a good mention there. Right, we're going to go now to a song from a band who promised much with the song and the debut album, but weren't really able to follow it up. Now, if I mention the band, you'll know the song. Have a little listen to this. We're talking about The Knack. The Knack and My Sharona, which is a great suggestion once again, Joe. Fantastic stuff. So why did you choose this one?
Well, this is my guitarist bias that I'm sure listeners are getting used to now. I'm a sucker for a great riff, and that riff's particularly unusual. It's actually all just octaves. That bit we heard there, from the intro. It's in G, and it goes like this, you know. Oh, missed the slide. And then this little chord riff at the end. But guitaristically, it's most notable for its solo. We heard the intro there, but about 2.5 minutes in, there is this cracking solo, and it goes on for ages, and it's real. It's a bit like the Hotel California solo. It's built in, and it goes in sections, so it takes you on a journey. It begins kind of melodically, and then it goes up sort of a fourth on the neck to some of the higher positions, and then it gets really flash with these super super fast licks, and it has this real sense of journey before taking us back to the song and the riff. So it's great. Classic 70s rock craft, and a deserved staple of every bar band you ever heard.
Yeah, what about the drums in that, Joe, as well? Because it's got that kind of classic sort of stadium anthem kind of, I don't know, getting the crowd clapping along trick to it as well.
Yeah, yeah. So they're sort of going very light on the hi hat and heavy on the kick drum, toms, and snares. So we get that sort of which obviously also coincides with that little guitar riff when it's up the octave, that upper note actually hits at the same time as the snare, so we get that accent as well. And it's quite an easy riff to play, which even though I messed it up just there, which I suggest is probably one of the reasons it translates so well to the sort of bar band community.
And if you've just been joining us and you missed out on Joe's academic support and formula for this, it didn't follow up, did it, particularly well? I mean, I think, what was it, number 66 I'm looking at here was the next most successful single, so definitely fits your algorithm.
Yeah, I think this one is a legit one-hit wonder. There are, maybe some of the listeners might want to argue with me on some of the other choices, but this was like, in fact, even My Sharona was actually number 6 in the chart, so it wasn't a number 1. But like I say, getting to number 1 is not the guaranteed sort of, it's not a guarantee of longevity. Mm-hmm. There's just something about some songs that just stick.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. Again, a great selection. So what do you reckon? What do you want to do, Joe? We've got an option. We can carry on with some more one-hit wonders. I'm enjoying these. Do you fancy keeping going with that, or do you want to nip into something else? Should we keep going?
Well, you know what? We've got, we can maybe come back with a future show because we've got so many one-hit wonders lined up. Yeah. And because I always enjoy chatting with you, Gordon, we always overrun the playlist that we prepare. So, I was thinking maybe we should look at one of our sound-alikes, because I think there's been a few listeners texting in interested in that stuff, and that's something that interests me when one song sounds a bit like another.
Good call. Well, listen, there's so many one-hit wonders. We can come back to them another time, because you're right. Let's do this, Joe, because we've had loads of messages asking questions, and there are more coming in tonight, by the way, which we'll have to tuck away and let you cast your eye over. But the one we're going to talk about tonight, Jack in Woking contacted us, and he says, the Beatles' Paperback writer was said to have inspired the Monkees and their very lively Pleasant Valley Sunday. Professor Joe, do you agree? Both songs have sparkling guitar intros, which, as we know on this show, regular listeners know that definitely plays along to Joe's interests. And the Monkees give a great rendition of a very Liverpool sound, I reckon. So come on, Joe, what do you make of this one? Help us out with the science, says Jack in Woking.
Well, I can totally see why people might think that they are very similar. And I think the influence probably is there. The timing is right. Obviously, the Beatles and the Monkees very much tracked each other, or but more accurately, perhaps the Monkees tracked the Beatles' career. And, late 60s, people were just starting to get a bit more experimental, the birth of psychedelic rock. So they certainly have very similar riffs. They both sort of are based on octaves and power chords and with a flat 7. And I'll just play you a little bit of, we'll start with Paperback Writer, which is perhaps the more well-known one. And here's sort of 30 seconds of that. And Pleasant Valley Sunday, which it's in a different key and it's about 10 beats per minute faster, but it's got a lot of the same vibe. Here's a bit of that.
The local rock group down the street is trying hard to learn their song. Serenade the weekend squire who just came out to mow his lawn.
So they also share that they are kind of one chord verses as the storytelling bit goes on, dear sir or madam, and the description of the Pleasant Valley Sunday of the title. So what I've done here is I've taken the riffs and I've slowed them down and put them in the same key. So here's Pleasant Valley Sunday a whole lot slower and taken down a whole tone to the key of G major. And here's the equivalent of Paperback Writer. So, and at the risk of sort of upsetting the Beatles fans and the Monkees fans simultaneously, I'm going to try and go back and forth live now between little bits of the riffs, little bits of the vocal, and so here's a sort of 30-second mashup of the two. They do kind of work together. Let's take a listen to that.
Down the street is trying hard. Take a look. It's based on a novel by a man named Lear, and I need it. Serenade, the Weekend Squire just came out to be a paperback writer. Paperback writer.
It's fascinating, Joe. Oh, beautifully done, Joe. Beautifully done. So what's the conclusion then? Tell me what you're thinking after you've done that and taken it apart.
It's a legit sound-alike. It's there's definitely an influence there. You know, there's not that many riffs like that last that length of time with one-chord songs in that mode in that part of the 60s. So I think there's absolutely no doubt about it. But it's not copyright infringement or plagiarism because none of the notes are the same. So, but it's a really interesting way of taking an influence where the influence is really clear to everyone, but no one's going to be in a courtroom anytime soon.
Absolutely brilliant. And hopefully that's inspired you tonight. If you'd like Jack and Woking, to ask a question of Joe, to decode, slow down, speed up, change the key, have a little tinker with it and tell us if we're all going to court to see Joe perform, then do get in touch. 85058. We've just had one sent in, the second actually, Joe. I'm not familiar. Johnny Park v Queen of New Orleans. Always thought this. Are they the same or are they not? So there's one to think about. We'll do a bit of digging on that, Joe, for another week. But if you feel the same about any song that's in your head at the moment, 85058, and our musicologist, Dr. Beat, will tell you where you stand. Right, as always, I can't believe the time's disappearing so quickly, and we've got so many entries tonight, Joe. I think we're going to have to reveal the answers to your big quiz.
Okay, let's get back to our quiz. So as before, I gave everyone the location of the band. Here are the answers. So the Californian band from 1998 got to number 5. I think that bit of vocal gave it away. It was Get What You Give by New Radicals.
Great song. Brilliant.
For number 2, it was a band from New York City. It was a hit in 2000 and it got to number 2 in the UK charts. And I think people were getting that from the riff. I think those power chords are just too easy to spot. It was, of course, Teenage Dirtbag by Wheatus. So our third one was a whole lot more acoustic. I mentioned the band were from Illinois. It was a hit in 2006, and it was about a steeplechase runner. And the song was Hey There Delilah by Plain White Tees.
Hey there, Delilah, what's it like in New York City? I'm 1,000 miles away, but girl, tonight you look so pretty. Yes, you do.
Now, I remember this one. I was in high school. This is from 1983. This Canadian band with all of the synthesizers. They played this, and it got to number 6 in the UK chart. And the answer was Men Without Hats, The Safety Dance.
We can dance if we want to. We can leave your friends behind. Cause your friends don't dance, and if they don't dance, well, they're no friends of mine.
And for our final one, number 5, from 1997, and Leicester. Not that many bands in the 90s from Leicester. That got to number 1, and the band was, of course, Cornershop, and the song Brimful of Asher.
Brimful of Asher on the 45. Well, it's brimful of Asher on the 45. Brimful of Asher on the 45.
Absolutely brilliant tonight, Joe. Right, the results are in, I can tell you. Those with 3 out of 5. Big Al in East Kilbride, Ashley and Jill in Edinburgh. Hard lines, good effort. You're not quite there. Come back next week, have another go. 4 out of 5. B got in touch. Congratulations with your effort. And a lovely message about the show as well. Thank you for that, B. Ian in Altrincham, Michael in Hayes, but got all the years right, he'd like to claim. But I'm afraid that doesn't mean that you got all the songs right. So 4 out of 5 for you. And Joe, tonight, I think I can count 10 people with 5 out of 5, which is the biggest response we've had so far in terms of winners. So here we go. Neil McFarlane in Chester, well done. Baz in Plymouth, Vary in Bells Hill, well done. Faye from Lurgan, Alex Clark, formerly from Crossgates in Fife, now Cruden Bay, who once had a night out with me in the Crystal Bar. I remember that one. Kevin Malden, Jeff in Lancaster, JC in Ayrshire, Tom Copping near Sheffield, John in West Drayton, and Benny on Twitter. Congratulations, 5 out of 5. You cracked the code tonight. Brilliant effort. Please come back next week. Professor Joe, we've got a lovely message for you here. Chaz Weymouth in Dorset says, Gordon, can you have a word with the good professor, please? We need the music stuff to start at 11:30 on a Monday night. So an extra half hour, Joe, is required. And Joe, before we let you go, there is a question for you tonight. You cannot let him go this evening without telling us. You separately mentioned Del Shannon and Runaway and the Ondine synthesizer. Isn't that the instrument used in the Runaway solo? Asks Barney in South London. Do you know the answer, Joe?
You know what? I think it's a 60s organ. Is it an ondioline? I'm not certain that it's actually that instrument, but you know I love a musical rabbit hole. I am so chasing that factoid down. I'm going to find out. You will find out. Professor Joe, absolutely outstanding tonight. We love having you on every Monday night. We'll be back next week.
The Voice of the UK. This is BBC Radio 5 Live.